Deep in the green lung of Central Africa, there's a story that refuses to go quietly. Locals speak of a creature so large it can stop a river in its tracks. They call it Mokele-Mbembe, the one who stops the flow of rivers. A name most commonly reported from communities around the Likwala swamps and Lake Tele in the Republic of the Congo. Whether spoken as a cautionary tale, a river spirit, or a description of an animal, the name has become the anchor for testimonies, historical notes, and modern expeditions that orbit one of Africa's most persistent cryptid narratives. What if the jungle kept one giant secret? That rhetorical question captures the fascination. Remote wetlands and oxbow lakes create conditions where visibility is poor and human presence is sporadic. The Congo Basin is the world's second largest tropical rainforest and contains labyrinthine channels and flooded forest where even common fauna can be difficult to observe clearly. Those conditions make it fertile ground for stories and for genuine gaps in biological knowledge. Nevertheless, the leap from unknown place to surviving dinosaur is large. A more useful question asks how folklore, natural phenomena, and the limitations of observation combine to create enduring legends. Across villages around the Likwala swamps, descriptions are consistently similar. A grayish-brown, smooth-skinned animal, roughly the size of an elephant or hippo, with a long, flexible neck, thick tail, and a squat body. To some, the creature resembles a sauropod, a living brontosaurus, while to others, it is a river spirit that keeps its distance. Those repeated motifs make the legend culturally coherent and narratively powerful. Similar descriptions across independent tellings can indicate a shared perceptual origin, a stable mythic image, or repeated encounters with the same real phenomenon. However, similarity in description alone does not constitute biological proof. The physical image associated with Mokele-Mbembe, long neck, bulky body, aquatic habits, resonates with human familiarity for large herbivores and with the fossil record, which helps explain the legend's persistence. Observations made at distance or in poor light commonly lead to size and shape exaggeration. In waters that hide much of an animal's body, a raised head or a long neck alone can create a dinosaur-like silhouette where none exists. Western records of the tale reach back centuries. A French missionary mentioned the giant creature in 1776, and later German explorers and naturalists noted similar accounts in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Captain Ludwig Freiherr von Stein included native reports in a 1913 survey, and Karl Hagenbeck referenced local stories in 1909. Bernard Heuvelmans later collected and popularized many such reports, giving rise to modern cryptozoological interest. These historical accounts are valuable as cultural records, but are not the same as biological evidence. Missionaries and explorers often combine direct observation with hearsay, and translation from local metaphors into European frameworks introduce distortions. Historians and ethnographers therefore treat such accounts as data about perception, colonial contact, and the transmission of stories as about zoology itself. Throughout the 20th century and into the 1980s and 2000s, visitors traveled to Lake Tell and surrounding swamps. Eyewitness testimony attempted to document unusual sounds and sightings. Other field investigators produced photographs, audio recordings, and accounts that energized popular interest but did not yield incontrovertible biological specimens. Eyewitness reports sometimes include tangible details, tracks, disturbed vegetation, or repeated behavioral descriptions, but careful study often reveals plausible alternative explanations for these traces. The ripple pattern, for example, might come from submerged logs, wind across vegetation, or schooling fish. A track in soft mud could be from an elephant, crocodile, or a tree root. Context is crucial. Who saw it, when, and under what conditions matters for interpreting any report. Modern field teams supplement interviews with technology, underwater sonar to map submerged objects, motion-triggered camera traps, aerial drones for inaccessible channels, acoustic recorders, and environmental DNA, eDNA sampling. To date, none of these tools has produced genetic or photographic evidence that satisfies mainstream zoology for previously unknown giant sauropod in the region, but the evolving toolkit continues to refine what we know about the wetland's biodiversity. Mainstream science states that a population of giant sauropods surviving since the Cretaceous is effectively impossible. Non-avian dinosaurs went extinct approximately 66 million years ago, and evolutionary and fossil records show no continuity supporting living sauropods. Biologists point to practical constraints. Large animals need extensive food, sizable breeding populations to maintain genetic health, and typically leave a fossil and trace record, bones, nests, dung, and tracks that paleontologists or archaeologists would likely have uncovered. Instead, scientists emphasize likely sources of misidentification. Hippos and swimming elephants can produce long silhouettes. Large rivers can hide much of an animal's body. Big snakes and floating vegetation can create deceptive shapes. Human perception is prone to pattern making, especially under low light or stress. That tendency, combined with unfamiliarity and cultural expectations, can transform ordinary observations into extraordinary claims. From a conservation perspective, absence of remains is significant. Extant large fauna generally leave multiple lines of evidence and are detected through even incidental surveys. Where systematic studies have occurred, no credible, verifiable evidence for an unknown megafauna has been documented. For the communities who live by the swamps, the story of Mokele-Mbembe is not merely a curiosity. It functions as guardian tale, warning, and mnemonic device that encapsulates practical ecological knowledge. Such folk tales often encode observations about seasons, flood hazards, dangerous channels, and areas where certain resources should not be disturbed, packaging survival knowledge in memorable narrative form. Anthropologists caution against dismissing these stories as mere superstition. They are social tools that transmit important information about land use, resource rules, and moral relationships with the landscape. Conservationists increasingly view local knowledge as complementary to scientific research. Narratives can guide where to survey, which seasons to target, and which habitats to prioritize for protection. Expeditions in the 2000s and 2010s returned repeatedly to Lake Tele and surrounding wetlands. While they documented rich biodiversity, from unusual algae to large freshwater turtles, none produced the definitive remains or genetic sequences that would convince mainstream zoology of a living sauropod. The persistence of reports has, however, driven methodological innovation. Teams now combine rapid biodiversity assessment, long-duration camera trapping, acoustic monitoring, and eDNA sampling to build a more complete picture of life in the wetlands. Environmental DNA is particularly powerful because it detects genetic fragments shed by organisms into water or soil, enabling identification without direct sighting. eDNA surveys have expanded knowledge of fish, amphibians, and microbial diversity in the Congo, but have not returned sequences attributable to any large, unknown terrestrial vertebrate resembling sauropods. Fieldwork in the Likwala region is logistically hard and expensive. Access is often by boat. Seasonal rains alter routes, roads are sparse, and health risks such as malaria and trypanosomiasis complicate extended stays. Political instability and limited research funding reduce the frequency of sustained surveys, which helps explain why some places remain undersampled and why rumors persist longer than they might in more accessible regions. Nevertheless, each well-documented survey contributes value. Species lists, habitat condition maps, water quality data, and information about human use of the landscape are essential for conservation and management of endangered species. So, dinosaur, spirit, or storyteller's truth. Science says probably not when it comes to surviving sauropods, but the Congo still hides places we barely understand. The Mokele-Mbembe story functions on multiple levels as an intriguing unsolved report for cryptozoology, as cultural heritage for local communities, and as a prompt for scientific inquiry into remote wetlands. The tension between skepticism and wonder is productive. It motivates better methods, encourages closer collaboration with local people, and keeps attention on habitats that need study and protection. Whether the river giant is a misidentified animal, a spirit shaped by generations of storytelling, or a hope that something enormous still slips unseen beneath the water, the legend draws attention to the Congo's wild places and why they should be conserved. Modern conservation depends on blending scientific data with respect for local knowledge. Successful initiatives in Central Africa often combine field science, community-based monitoring, and culturally sensitive education. Finally, mysteries like Mokele-Mbembe are invitations to listen to witnesses, to apply rigorous methods such as eDNA and remote sensing, and to balance healthy skepticism with respect for cultural meaning. The search for a river giant has advanced tools, inspired inquiry, and reminded outsiders that some corners of Earth remain richly unknown. Even without a single confirmed giant, the process of searching strengthens scientific understanding and honors the communities who live in these landscapes. If you like this trip into the unknown, hit like and subscribe. Tell us, could you brave the swamp in search of a river giant? Next time, we go deeper.